I inspect cell phone towers for a living, and until 3 months ago, I believed every tower was accounted for. Then I received an emergency work order for Tower 17 after dozens of failed 911 calls. Dispatch insisted the tower didn't exist. So did my supervisor. Yet the work order included GPS coordinates. I followed them into a remote forest where a 300-foot cell tower stood alone in the fog. The moment I saw it, every phone in my truck lost service. Then, all three started ringing at once. I stared at the three phones vibrating across the passenger seat. Company phone, personal phone, work tablet. All three had shown no signal just seconds earlier. Now every screen displayed an incoming call. No caller ID, no service bars. That wasn't possible. My first instinct was to check the tower outside. Maybe some kind of equipment failure was flooding nearby devices with interference. I reached for my company phone first. The ringing stopped the instant I touched it. The other two kept ringing. I answered. For a second, all I heard was static. Then came the sound of wind. Not outside my truck, inside the call. A slow, metallic groan echoed in the background like steel twisting under enormous weight. I frowned. Hello? No response, just the wind. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, someone whispered, "Don't climb above the third platform." The call ended. The screen immediately returned to no signal. Before I could process what I'd heard, the remaining two phones stopped ringing at the exact same moment. Silence filled the cab. I looked back toward the tower. Its red obstruction light blinked steadily through the fog. Everything about it looked normal, which somehow made it worse. I stepped out of the truck and the cold air hit me immediately. The clearing couldn't have been more than 100 yards across. Dense pine forest surrounded it on every side. There wasn't another vehicle, no maintenance trailer, no fresh equipment, just a single chain-link fence surrounding the tower compound. The gate stood slightly open. That caught my attention. Every communications site I serviced stayed locked unless another technician was already working there. I checked the work order again. No secondary crew had been assigned. I called my supervisor, straight to voicemail. I tried dispatch. Nothing. Not even a failed call notification. My phone simply acted as though the network didn't exist. The tablet couldn't establish a data connection either. Whatever had happened out here wasn't limited to voice service. Every carrier was gone. I grabbed my tool bag, climbing harness, and hard hat from the truck. Years of doing this job had taught me one thing. Equipment doesn't fix itself. If a site was causing this much interference, there had to be a reason. As I approached the gate, I noticed something odd. There was no company logo anywhere. Every tower owner marks their equipment. A T&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, regional providers, government agencies, something. This tower had nothing. No identification plates, no FCC registration number, no warning decals beyond the standard electrical hazard signs. It was as if someone had built an entire 300-foot communications tower and never intended anyone to know who owned it. Inside the fence sat a small equipment shelter beside the base of the tower. Its steel door was already unlocked. The padlock hung from the latch, closed but never actually locked. I rested my hand on the handle. Something inside the shelter was humming, not loudly, just enough to tell me the equipment was still running. I pulled the door open. Every status light inside was glowing green. According to the equipment, Tower 17 was operating perfectly. I stood in the equipment shelter staring at the green lights. Every rack was alive. Power supply normal, battery backup normal, transmitters online, fiber connection active. Nothing showed a fault. That made no sense. A tower causing dozens of failed 911 calls should have been screaming errors. Instead, Tower 17 looked healthier than half the sites I serviced every month. I opened the diagnostic panel and connected my tablet with a cable. The device recognized the tower immediately, but not under any company name. The site ID loaded as 17_active. No carrier, no owner, no location. Just those two words. Then the tablet froze. For 5 seconds, the screen went completely black. When it came back, a new line had appeared at the bottom of the diagnostic page. Do not climb above platform 3. I didn't move. That was the same warning from the call. I backed out of the menu, closed the program, and restarted the tablet. The message disappeared. Outside, the tower groaned softly in the fog. I told myself it was wind moving through the steel. That happens all the time. Tall structures make noise. Metal expands, cables vibrate, guy wires hum. But this sound felt too low, too slow, almost like something breathing through the frame. I stepped back outside and looked up. The tower vanished into gray mist about halfway up. I counted the visible platforms. 1, 2, 3. The fourth disappeared somewhere above the fog. My job was simple. Inspect the base equipment, verify power, climb to the antenna array, and find whatever was interfering with emergency calls. Simple. I secured my harness, clipped my tool pouch to my belt, and started up the ladder. The first 30 feet felt normal. Cold steel, wet rungs, the faint creak of my safety line following behind me. At the first platform, I stopped to inspect the antenna mounts. Everything was clean. Too clean. No rust, no bird nests, no weathering, but the bolts were old. Not dirty, old. The kind of aged metal you see on structures from the 70s. That shouldn't have been possible with steel that looked brand new from the ground. On the second platform, I found a hard hat. It sat near the railing like someone had placed it there carefully. White, cracked, covered in mildew. No company logo. Inside the brim, someone had written a name in faded marker. M. Caldwell. I didn't recognize it, but beneath the name was a date. 1986. My stomach tightened. I looked down at my truck. It seemed farther away than it should have. The fog had thickened around the clearing, pressing against the fence like a wall. I kept climbing. At the third platform, I stopped. The air changed there. No wind, no birds, no sound from the forest. Just the tower humming beneath my hands. Then something rang. Not my phone, not the tablet. The sound came from inside the steel frame. A thin, old-fashioned ringtone. I turned slowly. Bolted to the crossbeam beside me was a flip phone. Gray plastic, tiny screen, antenna stub. It was vibrating against the metal. The caller ID showed one number. 911. I should have climbed down right then. Instead, I opened it. Static hissed through the speaker. Then a woman whispered, so close it sounded like she was beside me. "You're not the first one they sent." I stared at the flip phone in my hand. The tiny screen still glowed. Call ended. For several seconds, I couldn't move. Nobody should have been able to call that phone. It wasn't connected to anything. It looked like it had been sitting on the tower for 20 years. I flipped it over. The battery cover was missing. There wasn't even a battery inside. A chill ran down my spine. I carefully placed it back exactly where I'd found it and started climbing down. The warning echoed in my head. Don't climb above the third platform. Whoever had whispered it didn't sound threatening. They sounded terrified. Back on the ground, I walked straight to the truck. The first thing I noticed was the service bars. All 3 phones suddenly had full signal again, as if nothing had happened. Missed notifications flooded the screens. Emails, weather alerts, text messages, Everything except the calls I'd received. There wasn't a single record they had ever happened. I called my supervisor immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Where the hell are you?" he asked. "Tower 17? Silence. Then he laughed. "Still messing with me?" "I'm looking at it right now." Another pause. "Send me a picture." I turned toward the tower and snapped 3 photos. The moment I hit send, every image failed. Connection error. I tried again, same result. "Did you get them?" "No." I looked at the gallery. Every picture showed the clearing, the fence, the equipment shelter. But the tower itself was missing. The center of each image contained only gray fog. My supervisor sighed. "If you're having GPS issues, just head back." "I'm telling you, the tower, there's nothing at those coordinates." The line went dead. I looked back through the windshield. The tower still stood exactly where it had before. I climbed out and took another picture. Same result. No tower. Just empty fog. My stomach sank. I searched the fence for some kind of identification I'd missed earlier. Near the gate, hidden beneath years of grime, I finally found a small aluminum inspection plate. Most sites list the owner's name and the year construction was completed. This one had neither, only a serial number and one date. First activation, April 12th, 1986. The same year written inside the hard hat. I was still staring at the plate when I heard tires crunching on gravel. Relief washed over me. Another maintenance truck. Finally. I turned toward the road and raised my hand. The white pickup rolled into the clearing and stopped beside mine. The driver stepped out wearing climbing gear just like mine. He looked to be in his late 50s, weathered face, gray beard. Without saying a word, his eyes drifted past me to the tower. Every trace of color left his face. Quietly, almost to himself, he whispered, "They're using it again." The older technician never took his eyes off the tower. "They're using it again," he repeated. I stared at him. "You know this place?" He nodded once. "My name's Logan." He didn't offer a handshake. Instead, he walked to the fence and rested a hand against the steel. I hoped they'd finally shut it down. "They?" He ignored the question. "What platform did you reach?" 3. "And?" I found a flip phone. His shoulders slumped. So it started. I told him about the whisper, about the warning, about the hard hat from 1986. When I mentioned the inspection plate, Logan's expression hardened. "That date isn't when they built it." "What does it mean?" "It's the first time the tower answered." Before I could ask what that meant, a ringtone echoed across the clearing. Not from my pocket, not from the tower, from Logan's truck. He hurried over and opened the passenger door. 3 phones sat on the seat, all ringing, just like mine had. His face went pale. "They've never done that before." He answered one. Static, wind. Then his expression changed completely. He lowered the phone without saying a word. "What did it say?" It didn't. He slowly looked up at the tower. It laughed. A metallic groan rolled through the fog. This time, it wasn't the wind. The entire tower vibrated. I could feel it through the soles of my boots. Then the red obstruction light blinked once, twice, 3 times, and went dark. Every instinct told me to leave. Instead, Logan grabbed his climbing bag. "No," I stepped in front of him. "You heard the warning." "So did you." He clipped into the safety cable. "I've been waiting 30 years to find out who was making those calls." "You've been here before?" He nodded. "My partner disappeared on this tower in 1986. The words hit me like a punch. The hard hat was his. Before I could stop him, Logan started climbing. He moved quickly despite his age, barely pausing at the platforms. I followed. Not because I wanted answers anymore, because I couldn't let another technician disappear. We reached the second platform. The hard hat was gone. Neither of us said a word. By the time we reached the third platform, the fog had swallowed everything below us. The trucks, the fence, the forest, gone. It felt like we were climbing through clouds. Logan stopped climbing. His flashlight swept upward. The beam disappeared into gray mist, then reflected off something. Not steel, glass. Hundreds of tiny points of light shimmered above us like stars, except they were hanging from the tower. The ringing started again. One phone, then another, then dozens. Logan whispered, almost too quietly to hear, "Those aren't lights." I looked closer. My blood ran cold. They were phone screens, hundreds of them, suspended high above platform 3, all ringing at once. And slowly, they began swinging toward us. The phones swung gently above us, hundreds of them. Old flip phones, cordless handsets, smartphones, satellite phones. Every model from the last 40 years, all hanging from thin black cables woven into the tower itself. The ringing stopped. Instantly. Silence settled over the platform. Logan grabbed my arm. "We leave. Now." He didn't sound frightened anymore. He sounded certain. Then every phone screen lit up, not one after another, all at once. The glow filled the fog with hundreds of tiny white lights. Every display showed the same words. 911. Connected. A voice echoed through the mist, not from one phone, from all of them. Thousands of voices speaking together. "Help us." The steel beneath my boots shuddered. Above us, something massive shifted inside the clouds. The tower groaned under its weight. I looked up. At first, I thought the fog was moving. Then I realized the fog wasn't moving at all. Something inside it was. A shape. Enormous, far larger than the tower itself. Long black strands stretched downward through the mist. They weren't cables. They were reaching. Logan shoved me toward the ladder. "Don't look up!" The first strand wrapped around a cluster of phones. One by one, they went dark. Then another. The darkness spread across the tower like someone extinguishing stars. We climbed down as fast as our safety lanyards would allow. Above us, the voices changed, no longer pleading. Now they were calling our names. Perfectly. Exactly as our families would have said them. I almost stopped. Then Logan yelled, "They're copying them! Keep climbing!" We dropped past the third platform. The humming vanished. The phones stopped. The forest sounds returned all at once. Wind, birds, rain, as if we'd crossed an invisible line. We hit the ground running. Neither of us spoke until we reached the trucks. When I looked back, the obstruction light had begun blinking again. Slow, steady, normal. Logan threw his gear into his truck. "They'll file today's inspection," he said quietly. "They'll send another technician next time the calls start." "Who?" He looked at me for a long moment. "Whoever gets the work order." He climbed into his truck and drove away without another word. I stood there alone. The tower looked ordinary again, just steel, antennas, blinking red light. The next morning I submitted my resignation. Human Resources replied that no inspection had ever been scheduled. There was no Tower 17, no emergency work order, no record of Logan ever working for the company. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined everything. Until yesterday. My replacement called. He introduced himself as the new tower inspector. He said dispatch had given him my number because I was the last technician assigned to the site. Then he asked one question. "Do you know where I can find Tower 17? My GPS keeps saying it doesn't exist." If you've ever driven past a lonely cell tower in the middle of nowhere, you've probably never given it a second thought. Neither did I. Now, every time I see one standing alone above the trees, I wonder who built it. And more importantly, who or what is still answering the calls. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next nightmare around the campfire. And tell me in the comments, if you received a work order for a tower that officially didn't exist, would you have climbed it? Until next time, stay safe. And if your phone ever rings where there's no signal, maybe don't answer.